Well, good morning everybody. It's just gone 8:30. This is the first day of competition for the World Feeder Fishing Championships 2022. We've got a strong coffee on the go. We were up at 5 this morning. As you can imagine, this is a little bit more intense from training week. We have got a tight schedule to keep, and all the lads are in the boxes. They've got the bait. We're going to be fishing 10 until 3, and as you can imagine today, throughout the session, I won't get a chance to be filming any sort of footage or anything. But I will be giving you a bit of a rundown later on today. But all the anglers are here now. We're just about heading up now for bait check. Basically all the anglers, there are strict bait limits here, and as you can expect with anything like that, it needs to be enforced, and that's exactly what happens at 10 to 9. At 10 to 9 the steward, the officials walk down the line and check everybody's bait, check the quantities, make sure everybody's adhering to the rules, and that's why I'm heading up now. My job today is once again to run the bank for Steve Ringer. And so obviously I've got a job to do down here in D section. The draw, we really didn't fancy the draw, I've got to admit. An hour ago when we drew, it wasn't favourable at all. However, now we've seen that the actual placings of where the anglers actually are, then it's a lot more favourable than what we expected. So it's by no means a fantastic draw, but it's certainly not one that, it could have been a lot worse. But the worst one, unfortunately, is Steve, who's there now, just sticking up. So we think this is the toughest draw that we've got. However, there has been a bit of a rule change, and that basically means that this section, which is D section, this bottom end down here, is completely different from the top end. Something that I spoke about in the previous vlogs. If you want to check those out from the previous 7 videos prior to this, then they are right here on this channel for you. But they have actually split this section, so that basically means that where Stephen is today, which is D20, we cannot draw at this bottom end tomorrow. It means that whichever angler ends up coming to this section tomorrow can only draw in the top half of this section, which is the better half. And that's what the organisers have done to just try and make this a little bit fairer. So yeah, it's been quite intense this morning. We've obviously got a job to do. I've got a specific job to do for Steve, and that's the signal for bait check. So I'm going to get up to the top end now, do the bait check. Hopefully all that's going to go well. And what I will do is check in with you straight after the match, when I will be letting you know how the England lads have gone on and just give you some sort of an idea of what the overall standings are. Well, that was certainly an interesting day. In that office there behind me, that's where the captain's meeting is right now. Dean's in there, just kind of going through the section draws for tomorrow, just like we had last night. It's been a very, very interesting match. Now, you know, obviously I can't go into too much detail about tactics and things, obviously, because it's we've still got day 2 to fish tomorrow, and we know that some of the competitors in the competition will be watching this video. But it's been a very interesting day. As we'd expected, when you're catching larger numbers of small fish that sort of size, you know, 100 grams, 200 grams is always going to make a big difference. Never mind when you start talking about half kilo and kilos. So it's been a very, very close match. Basically, we've ended up on 40 penalty points. That's 4-0. A little bit, obviously, you always want a lower score than what you've got. But when you looked at the draw that we had, when you're looking at 23 peg sections, it's not that bad. Our draw wasn't quite as bad as what we thought. When we first drew here, we thought that the draw was much worse than it was. Once we had a look at where the actual pegs were, then we did fancy it a little bit more. We've got to be honest. But one of the big exceptions was Steve Ringer in D section. That's where I've been today. Steve was always going to be up against it on that draw. He's fished a peg where we have actually practiced there, and we knew it was going to be difficult. So in Steve for particular, it was just basically a case of damage limitation. It was a case of catching enough fish just to try and just finish as high up as he possibly could in that section. And at the far end of his section, in the low numbers, D1, D2, D3, D4, D5, D6, all that area there is where some bream have fed. We expected bream feeding, however they haven't fed across as many pegs as what we thought, and the pegs where they have fed have been a little bit different from where they fed yesterday, so they have moved slightly. However, the bream have been there. So obviously when you're going up against bream pegs, when you're trying to catch fish that size, you're always going to be up against it. So we never expected Steve to be able to compete with those early pegs. That is pretty much what's happened today. However, the bream haven't fed quite as much as what we possibly thought. We thought the bream were going to be much more spread out. So in between the bream weights, there have been just nets of roach, 2 kilo, 3 kilos of roach and perch and all that sort of thing, which, when you consider that we could possibly draw there tomorrow, is quite encouraging, in the sense that even if you're not targeting bream, you might be able to catch a few roach and other fish, but that's by the by, you know. We can't really talk about that until tomorrow, when we see where we've actually drawn. So Steve's actually done brilliantly. Like I say, that's where I've been based today, so I can't really shed too much light on the other sections, because I haven't been there. I've only been on D section, and admittedly I've been on the latter half of D section, because they were the pegs that Steve was realistically competing with. We thought we'd got him at about 13th or 14th in the section, and he's actually ended up 14th in the section out of 23, which, you know, we definitely would have took this morning, definitely. But like I say, it's been incredibly close. 50 grams as separated points. You know, he's been a little bit unlucky in the sense that he hasn't caught any bonus fish. So he's had in the region of, without looking at the board, he's had in the region of possibly 55, 60 fish. But none of those fish have really been net fish. Lots of people have caught, you know, like a 6-ounce roach or a 6-ounce perch, 8-ounce, 10-ounce. He hasn't had anything like that, which is a little bit unfortunate. But the bottom line is, he's ended up with 14 points. He's done absolutely fantastic. And the other surprise in that section was the MPEG. We expected MPEG 23 to not produce. We expected that being really difficult. It's been far from that, you know. I'm not going to take anything away from the angler there. The angler has possibly fished it slightly different from how other people have practiced there. But he's ended up with 100 fish, which is incredible. He's had a fantastic weight, 5 kilos. And Steve's actually had 3 kilos, just under 3.5 kilos. So, in a nutshell, basically with Steve's score and the other lads, Mick Viles has done really well. Mick Viles has ended up 4th in his section. I think Adam Wakeling's about the same as well. So the lads have put in a fantastic effort. It's been a little bit unlucky. Lee Kerry was catching fish, and it suddenly died on him with an hour and a half to go, and then right in the last few minutes he's hooked and landed a zander, a 4-pound zander, which will explain why the peg died, you know, why the roach suddenly went, you know. So obviously he's been unlucky there, and there's been 1 or 2 other stories as well. So in a nutshell for you, basically we've ended up on 40 points, and that's actually put us in 6th place overall. Now that doesn't sound ideal, obviously. However, the winning team, Serbia, are on 29 points. So whilst we are in 6th, we are just 11 points behind the leaders, which on this venue is absolutely nothing. It really, really is, you know. If Steve had been a few pegs to his left, that could have equated to those number of points, you know. It really is so tight. So we're currently in 6th, and Serbia are leading on 29 points. So it's very, very, very close. Dean's in there now doing the draw for tomorrow. So tonight the lads will know what sections they're actually off to. And then we will be drawing again in the morning to determine the peg numbers within those sections of where the lads are actually off to. And if you didn't quite fully understand what we meant earlier about section D, basically section D is where where Steve's been today. It is split into 2 halves. Today he actually drew the harder half, or the half that is not quite as good. But because he's drawn that today, it means that whoever draws D section tomorrow can't draw in that half. They can only draw in the better half. Okay, so that could obviously mean a visit to where the bream have been caught today or anything like that, but we don't know what angler is going to be there yet until Dean's completed the draw in the captain's meeting. So that's where we are. Okay, so I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been following this so far. This is match fishing. You know, no matter, you know, what amount of preparation you put into it, no matter what amount of effort you put into it, you know, a lot of the time in match fishing, the draw determines hell of a lot. And I'm not going to say we've had a really bad draw, but there are some we could have done with some better draws. But there are lots of teams in that position. There are some big nations, some very good teams. Holland, for example, that are on about 55 points, and there's one or two of the nations who have won world championships in the past that really struggled today. So we're all right. We're still in it. We're right in the fight. So we're obviously hoping that Dean's, I mean, he's joined the sections now, but we won't know the actual peg numbers until tomorrow morning. So thank you to everybody for logging on to this this journey this week. You know, it's been a long week, and tomorrow is a massive day. We're only halfway, as they say, and we're right in it. We really are right in it, and the lads are going to be back at the ranch tonight, very, very positive, preparing the kit. ready for the second day of competition. So thank you everybody. If you want to see more uploads like this, please hit subscribe and give this one a thumbs up to let us know you want to see more. So thank you for all the great wishes, and I look forward to checking in with you tomorrow.